Myself, Nalvendan, along with Swasti and Halima, will be your host of the symposium. This is an immense day for us and an honor to be in the tribe of intellectuals where we are about to see exchange of knowledge. If I say the life of mere existence and a death with no attention or of equal stature, you might all be wondered what made me make such a strong statement. Well, to explain it, what differentiates life and death, or to be precise, what matters in these two aspects is identity. We want to live with an identity and we want to die with an identity. When someone asks, who are you? It is a question of one's identity. And now, what would be our answer? Would we say our name to represent identity? Would we say the community we belong to as our identity? Would we say our nation as our identity? Or would we say our religion as our identity? Thus, identity can be seen from the perspective of individual identity, regional identity, and we also have global identity. Identity might appear to be a simple four-syllable word, but its application and scope are broader and complicated because our identity exists in the realm of plurality. Today, Umran Green Perspective Foundation brings this symposium to discuss such a varied and complex topic and its varied discourse amidst the top tier academicians, Dr. Wagdin Isaac, Dr. Mausmi G. Banerjee, Professor Felix Sebelos, Professor Bruce Lawrence, and Professor Hebar of SR sitting around the table. We welcome all the distinguished scholars and the participants. To brief about us, Umran Green Perspective Foundation is a registered NGO founded by Rajiv Kumar with the vision of Umran, which draws inspiration from Walter Gropius Bauer School and Ibn Haldun's concept of Umran. With this vision, Umran wants to build a residential international school which is under preparation at Jainagar in Bihar, India. Currently, we are hosting online classes teaching around 15 global languages with more than 500 students and 40 international faculty. Now, Ms. Halima will take over the mic.
Thank you, Nelvedon. My name is Halima Mazhar. I am from Pakistan. I'm volunteering as a content writer of Umran. Though often identified with the Arabs and Islamic religious tradition, Arabic language and literature has enjoyed widespread popularity for over a million among numerous different people. Arabic also has a unique role for Muslims worldwide due to the religious importance of the Quran. Let's take a look at the video made by Umran's Arabic teacher.
متطوعة في عمران. إذا أردتم أن تعرفوا أكثر على منظمة تعالوا معي. الهدف الرئيسي من عمران هو جمع إعانات لإنشاء مدرسة في مدينة بيهار بالهند. كلمة عمران هي مستوحاة من مفهوم ابن خلدون عن الحضارة والمجتمعات. عمران المدرسة الخضراء تحتوي على دورات تدريبية، دورات لغات، ومؤتمرات علمية والعديد من الفرص. إذا أردتم أن تتعرفوا على أصدقاء من مختلف دول العالم، مختلف الجنسيات والثقافات، ما عليكم إلا أن تشتركوا في عمران. عمران أيضا توفر لكم برامج ثقافية، اللغة الفارسية، اللغة التركية، الفرنسية، العربية، الأردو، الإسبانية، اليابانية والصينية والعديد من اللغات الأخرى التي سيتم إدراجها في هذه المدرسة. إذا أردتم أن تعرفوا معلومات أكثر عن كيفية التسجيل والانخراط معنا في عمران، ستجدون المعلومات في أسفل الفيديو. شاركوا الفيديو لكل المهتمين من أصدقائكم. مع السلامة.
We lost Halima.
Halima, are you there? Halima, are you there?
It seems we lost her. Rajiv, can you take over?
Oman has always worked its best for the sake of culture, diversity, and strong.
Seems her connection is unstable.
Okay, so thank you very much for watching this video. Now we'll be playing the video of SLY library that we have established recently in Bihar. And this library is in name of my grandfather. He had a vision of establishing an educational center in my region, and that's how I started to fulfill his vision as well. So let's watch the SLY library.
एक ऐसी संकल्पना है जिसका अर्थ है समृद्धि। इसके जनक श्री राजीव कुमार जी हैं। बिहार के मधुबनी में रहने वाले राजीव कुमार जी ने अपने गांव की स्थिति को अनुचित पाया।
देखो इन्हें ये है ओस की बूंदें, पत्तों की गोद में आसमां से कूदे, अंगड़ाई ले फिर करवट बदल कर, नाजुक से मोती हंस दे फिसल कर, खो न जाएंगे तारे ज़मीं पर। ये तो है सर्दी में धूप की किरणें, उतरे जो आंगन को सुनहरा सा करने,
ज्ञान प्राप्त करना है,
की रंगत बदल दे, खो न जाएंगे तारे ज़मीं पर। डिबिया में निंदिया और निंदिया में मीठा सा सपना, और सपने में मिल जाए फरिश्ता सा कोई।
Thank you very
Umran
much.
has always worked its best for the sake of culture, diversity, and strong connotation towards heterogeneity. It aims to bring significant academic strategy for people all around the world, which has been praised and appreciated globally. Here's a short video for Umran being appreciated and exalted from all around the world.
The Umran program for a while, honestly, I have to say that it's a very successful and beneficial project.
We have learned a lot of things from this Umran organization, even in this pandemic of COVID-19, and they made this hard time into a very fruitful time.
And I'm very thankful to our respected teacher for giving us this friendly environment here and make us feel like a family, and to Rajiv sir and Umran
for making courses free for everyone.
Umran is like our family for provide us, give us a chance for learning from home.
Umran is perspective, an idea, and a platform with loads of opportunities. And thank you, Mr. Rajiv sir, for providing us such a beautiful platform.
Umran means prosperity, but it has deep meaning for Mr. Rajiv Kumar.
Umran is a feeling.
Umran is really advanced and really helpful in learning different cultures, as they have people from all around the world. It's always exciting here.
I think I learned a lot. I learned more than I could teach, because like the platform that you gave, it was transnational. An opportunity.
I learned more than students there.
Students are really serious and enjoyable also.
I have the most experienced students with me. I mean, one of them is the assistant professor.
I thank Rajiv for giving me a platform where I'm able to connect with remote areas of our country and be useful.
Umran es conexión. Yo soy Umran.
In the tale of Arabic Nights, people travel countries with their flying carpets. And just like these tales, I travel every day to India, to America, Colombia, Iran, Sri Lanka, Palestine, and so many other countries. The only difference is my flying carpet is Umran, and Umran has become just like my family in a really short time. So, as everyone else, I am Umran.
Umran is a peaceful initiative against globalization, conflicts, injustice, and the
Umran Green School.
I am happy to become a member of Umran family. I am Umran.
I am Umran.
Umran.
Soy Umran.
Something like this.
Umran is actually in everyone, but very few have realized it. And at this platform, we are bringing it into realization and visualization.
I am Umran.
Hello everyone. Thank you very much for watching these heart-touching videos. And I would also like to thank my fellow hosts, Nalvanthan and Halima. First of all, my entire board of reverence to all the respected professors and chairpersons. I am Shwasti Bishoi, student of the English and Foreign Languages University, Ceylon. I belong to West Bengal, India. Today, I'm immensely thankful to the Green Perspective Foundation, Umran, and especially to Rajiv sir for giving me such an opportunity to host this unprecedented international symposium, where Umran has encompassed 3 continents together. Now, I would like to invite the founder and managing director of Umran, Mr. Rajiv Kumar. Rajiv Kumar comes from a small village, namely Akuna, which is situated at the heart of Bihar, India. I personally congratulate him for creating such a nice project, which we are having now. Let's invite Mr. Rajiv Kumar on this very online stage. It's over to you, sir. Please.
Thank you very much, Swasti, Nalvendan, and Halima for making me proud. You are doing excellent. Dear professors, respected professors, guests, participants, audience, and my dear Umran team, thank you very much for your continuous support and trust in me that made this symposium happen. The symposium and everything associated with Umran is very close to my spirit. It is also because it is my journey. It starts from a small village
Ready.
Akonha. I still remember when my father scolded me
Rajiv, your connection is not stable.
Forced me actually to go for it. I literally started crying, looking at a very complicated street, big building, with so many people, teachers. But the great transition happens when I moved to Istanbul. I met with really great scholars, teachers, and I learned so many things. I really thanks to Professor Hebarov and Professor Vaditi Nishik and Professor Erjumen Tassel for giving me kind support here in Istanbul, in both in my academic career and in my life here in Istanbul. So they are not just my professors, but also my guardian here in Istanbul. I really thank to Professor Ceballos from Latin America. It has been a wonderful experience with you, and I really learned so many things for your video friendly and communication. I really thank to Professor Banerjee for this nice and encouraging communication that you established with me throughout this process. I really learned so many things in a very short time. I would like to thank Professor Bruce Lawrence for giving me a great opportunity to have a first-hand experience of a great person and a great scholar and alim at the same time. I really thank to Professor Bruce Lawrence for giving me such a wonderful chance to learn his intellect, his vision, his wisdom, his sense of humor, his energy, and his kindness. If you have noticed the poster of this program, Umran Symposium, you must have noticed that you are in the bottom and I'm on the top. But my understanding of this is that interpretation of this is that you all are the foundation, and I, along with my fellow Umran team, is the future or continuation of you. I must say that this Umran project is a inspirational project of your teaching, that you have been teaching the cosmopolitan or a global understanding, or in Indian language we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So thank you very much, professors, for teaching me such a great thing. I would like to say that throughout this journey, the most beautiful thing that I learned is that love, giving love. So I am using here key term, love, ishq. And Professor Lawrence, in one of his lectures that he delivered at Umran, it was my best, one of my favorite lecture of Professor Lawrence, where he uses Ain Sin Kaf. And again, is a Arabic letter, and the key term that he's using. And I say for ishq is Kabir or Umran. And I think Professor Lawrence would say a Barjah, B-A-R-G-A-K-H, Barjah. So those who are not familiar with this term, I would suggest that please watch the lecture of Professor Bruce Lawrence, which he delivered at Umran. I would like to recite a poem of Kabir. And those who are not from India, not familiar with Kabir, I will say that he is a great Indian oral poet of 15th century. And this poem is attributed to him. And it says, Pothi pad pad jag moya pandit bhaya na koi, dhai akhar prem ka padhe so pandit hoy. So if you have not learned love, it means you are not a scholar. I really thank to Ibn Hald University for creating such a environment, such a great environment, such a vibrant environment, and bringing a great scholar at one platform where one can really grow. So when I say grow, I say it's inner growth, in terms of inner growth. I really congratulate Professor Recep Şentürk for his leadership and his charisma. At the end, I would like to say thank to all the participants for writing papers, and must say that the symposium is not just about presenting papers or producing knowledge, but its implication and understanding. So I wish you very well, all the very best, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rajiv sir, for your asserting and enriching words. Now, I would like to welcome Dr. Faditin Ishik. He is a professor of history and also the director at the Department of Alliance of Civilizations at Ibn Khaldun University at Istanbul, Turkey. As well as he is a well-known author. He has authored a number of books, articles, papers, and he is one of the greatest supporters of Umran Green Perspective Foundation. I would like to invite him to say a few words. I request everyone to give a big round of applause for Professor Isik. Please have the stage, Professor.
Thank you very much. Değerli meslektaşlarım, öğrencilerim ve kıymetli katılımcılar, hepinizi saygıyla selamlıyorum. İbn Haldun Üniversitesi Medeniyetler İttifakı Enstitüsü ile EFL University ve National University of Columbia'nın birlikte düzenlediği bu program bizim için kalıcı işbirlikleri yapmanın kapısını aralıyor kanaatindeyim. Umuyorum ki bundan sonra da ortak çalışmalar yapabiliriz. Sempozyum, sosyal bilimler literatüründe önemli bir yer tutan kimlik konusunu çeşitli boyutlarıyla gündeme getirecek. Bu vesileyle de değerli hocalarımızın uzun yıllara dayalı çalışmalarının ürünü olan tebliğlerini dinleyeceğiz burada inşallah. Kimlik kavramı oldukça farklı tanımlara ve değerlendirmelere konu olmuş karmaşık bir kavram. Şimdilerde ise bu konvansiyonel tanımların gittikçe daha da açıklayıcı olmaktan uzaklaştığı bir döneme girmiş bulunuyoruz. Özellikle teknolojik imkanların farklı bilgi kaynaklarını hepimiz için ulaşılabilir hale getirdiği bir zamanda, yine farklı kültürlerin birbirine katıştığı, bir arada bulunduğu bir zamanda yaşıyoruz. Dolayısıyla globalleşme denilen bu süreç kitlesel göçlerle daha da karmaşıklaşan bir dünya, bir hayat sunuyor hepimizin önüne. Bilgilerimiz, ekonomik kaynaklarımız ve ürettiğimiz hemen her şey, kitaptan ekonomik ürünlere, teknolojik ürünlere kadar hepimizin birlikte paylaşımına açılıyor ve farklı zeminlerde biz birbirimizle iç içe geçmiş bir ilişki ağının tarafları haline geliyoruz. Buna bir de post-normal, post-true ve post-human bir çağda yaşadığımıza dair söylemler ekleniyor. Kuşkusuz bütün bu durumlar insanların kendilerini de, muhataplarını da tanımlamada yeni bir gerçeklikle yüzleştiriyor hepimizi. Kendimizi nasıl tanımlayacağız? Muhataplarımızı nasıl tanımlayacağız? Artık karmaşık bir meseleyle karşı karşıyayız. İşte bu programda hocalarımız meseleyi farklı bütünlüğü ve derinliği ile inşallah bizlerin dikkatlerine sunacaklar. Bu programın oluşmasında birçok kişinin emeği var. Bu vesileyle programda tebliğ sunacak olan hocalarımızı ve bu işbirliğine katılan EFL Üniversitesi'ni ile National University of Columbia'nın kıymetli yöneticilerini burada görmüş olmak bizleri mutlu ediyor. Kendilerine çok teşekkür ediyorum. Ve elbette bu programı öncülük eden kıymetli öğrencimiz Rajiv Kumar, bu buluşmayı mümkün kıldığı için ayrıca özel bir teşekkürü hak ediyor. Kendisini hepinizin huzurunda tebrik ediyorum. Başarılarının devamını diliyorum. Ve en kısa zamanda sizleri İstanbul'da misafir etmeyi, yüz yüze görüşmeyi umut ediyorum. Hepinize sağlık, huzur ve başarılar diliyor ve saygıyla selamlıyorum. Teşekkür ediyorum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. I would like to brief what Professor Isik said. He's really very happy about this symposium that we are organizing. And he's very hopeful about what we have brought together from India, from Latin America, and the 3 continents. And there is no doubt that what Professor Isik was saying, that the global understanding that what academic education should be actually bringing the communication, a global understanding, that Ibn Haldun has a vision of that. So he's very happy about this symposium that Umran had made possible, bringing like IFLU and from the Latin America and Ibn Haldun University together. And he has given a lecture, actually a brief lecture, how this whole in academic discipline there is a gap, there is a communication gap, and that we need to really combat that. And he's very happy about this, Umran, and he wants to have in the future more some sort of gathering together, which will be very beneficial for humanity and for the sake of education. So he's wishing to see all of us face to face, not just online, and wishing all the very best. Thank you, Professor.
I understood her shay, sorry. I understood her shay and musafir. These two words. I know these two words.
Teşekkür ediyorum Şemsettin Profesör.
Teşekkürler, teşekkürler.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor Isaac, for your enlightening talk. Now, I welcome Dr. Moshami Guha Banerjee. I'm feeling honored to welcome her as I am fortunate enough to be her direct student. Now, let me briefly introduce her. Dr. Banerjee belongs to West Bengal, India. She is an associate professor and HOD at the Department of English Literature at the English and Foreign Languages University Regional Campus, Shillong at Meghalaya, India. She has been a Fulbright Nehru Postdoctoral Research Fellow and a visiting scholar at the year 2019 and 20 at Amherst College, Amherst, Massachusetts, USA. She is also an associate with the Indian Institute of Advanced Study, IIAS, Simla, India. Her research interests include literary theories, postmodern criticism, Western philosophy, text, language, and hermeneutics, poetic language, women's writing, and writings about women, and film criticism. She has extensively published on these areas in journals, magazines, and anthologies, and has delivered speeches at various institutions in national and international basis. She has authored 3 books, and she is currently working on 2 books-length projects. Not only this, she is a trained singer and has collection of songs published as albums to her credit. And last but not the least, she is greatly a passionate professor to her students. So without taking much time, I'd like to supplicate Professor Banerjee to share a few words with us. The stage is yours, Dr. Banerjee. Please have it, Professor.
You are muted. You are muted, please.
Okay, yes, thanks, Rajiv. Thanks for that introduction. I didn't know Swasti knows such a lot about me. Okay, so yes, a very good afternoon to everyone in Turkey and a very good evening to everyone in the USA, maybe morning in the USA, South America and Asia, who are present in this program today. My name is Moshami Guha Banerjee, and I teach at the English and Foreign Languages University in its Shillong Regional Campus that is situated in the state of Meghalaya in India. I cannot express my delight enough to be meeting you all on this unique occasion of the Umran International Symposium 2021. The very reason of this event being unique is that it has been able to bring together almost 4 continents. That in itself is a heightened achievement. I therefore heartily appreciate the very diligent and sincere efforts of Rajiv, the founder and managing director of the Umran Green Perspective Foundation, and his team, the Ibn Khaldun University, and Dr. Valentin Isaac, the director of the Alliance of Civilizations in the university, and the Compensa University Foundation, Colombia, to have conceived this, put this together, and brought this to be a reality for all of us. I very warmly thank Rajiv and everyone in his organizing team to have invited me, and it is my utmost pleasure to be able to be a part of this intercontinental meet, as I would like to call it. I also highly appreciate the efforts of the professors, Professor Bruce B. Lawrence, Professor Heber Rauf, and Professor Felix Ceballos, who worked very hard to lend that qualitative edge to this symposium. The Department of English Literature at the English and Foreign Languages University at Shillong is really proud and happy to have been able to be one of the collaborators in this distinguished academic endeavor. Now a little bit about the department from which I hail. The vision of the literature department is constituted of imparting a strong humanistic education to serve to nurture the very essential qualities of the students as conscientious human individuals would not only be able to appreciate textualities in literature, but also be able to attempt a critique of life and human experience at large. The department has a unique and exhaustive array of syllabi for all the batches of both the BA English Honours and the Master's degree levels. In addition to this, the department offers the PhD program in literature. One of the primary objectives of the department is to nurture a critical and research aptitude in the students. And with a view to achieving this, the department provides a hospitable environment for every kind of research, with some new academic fields being significantly conceived. Among them are the study of visual cultures, including digital humanities, new humanities, critical humanities, nation and narration, literary cultures of India, Indian poetics, the Indian classical poetic tradition, time and narrative, life writing, ecology and literature, the novel and the city, film studies, and text and performance studies. The department encourages and facilitates interdisciplinary studies and research too, for fostering a comprehensive and humane understanding of cultures and civilizations. Now to come to the theme of the present symposium, that is exploring identity through culture, literature, and history. I think it's extremely significant since issues of subjectivity and identity have remained fundamental to almost all discourses related to literature and literary thought. One of the powerful features of literature is that it can, by virtue of its imaginative function, rewrite history, if not entirely change it. And modernity lies in the construction of the identity that one, as may be so bestowed upon him to do, seeks to be in search for in the available historical documents and references. When we talk about time past, we tend to think in terms of documented time, documented in terms of history, myths, and narratives. But such documents are not infinite, and hence may not worthily arrest the state of continuum implicit in time. 'Tis herein that we need to take recourse to literature that is able to represent the voices that in turn have remained unheard in time, voices that are not generalizable, and voices that need an identity of their own. Hence, as we hail the universal function of literature of appealing to the condition of man and his experience, we also have to bear in mind that the discipline serves, to use Jonathan Culler's words here, a profoundly significant national function. Well, with those words, I would like to thank everyone associated with the symposium once again, and I look forward to a very exciting time ahead. Thank you all so very much.
Our heartfelt thanks to you, Dr. Banerjee. We become replete with your words. Thank you very much, Professor.
Well, thank you, Srishti, and I thank all the professors. I thank all the professors, and also a special mention to my professor, Dr. Banerjee. Now, with that said, I would like to welcome Professor Felix Dabalos, who is famously known by his pen name, Robert Sergavo. He is an associate professor of English literature, University Foundation Compensar, Bogota, Colombia. Roberto Segro was born in Bogota in 1980. He is a poet, storyteller, novelist, and translator. He has published the poetry books Breakwater, Lunar Triptych, Studies for the Attempt of Certain Nightmares. The book of short stories are A Constant Twilight and the novel Anatomy of the Abyss. His contributions to periodicals are numerous. He has collaborated with the cultural magazine Dias Tematicos on Awareness de Literatura. He is a regular contributor to the literature column called Oki Dates in the cultural magazine Literary Ad. As a person like me who aspires to be an author, you are an inspiration, and it is an honor to invite a person of such stature to Umran Green Perspective Symposium. And do excuse me in case of my mispronunciation of the words associated with you. With this said, now, with all due respect and love, I would welcome you, sir. Please take the stage.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Thank you very much for the invitation and also for the introduction. Thank you so much. Well, it was last year, right, Mr. Kumar,
Yes.
that we first talked about having somehow a conversation about Colombian literature. And it was through one of my ex-students that, we started talking about this. And then I got to know about your beautiful project. And then you invited me to talk about this and to talk about a little bit of my literature too. It was a magnificent opportunity, an experience to see that, there's a group of people who are working, so far from my continent to do this kind of stuff, which is basically opening a ground for starting conversations about the things that, concerns us in this contemporary, so crazy, brave world, right? So thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you also for organizing all this symposium. It was a really tiny idea we had, in one of our conversations. It's like, what if we do this? And then, it grew from there. So seeing that this happened finally, and in such a way, like unifying different continents, it's amazing, Now, well, to talk about a little bit the university here in Colombia, it was, I also want to apologize because I wanted a lot of people from Latin America to be connected to this symposium, but it was not so easy because, the calendar here in Latin America is way different from the one you have there. So at this moment, we are just in the first term of university. So people are just like warming up, you see? So they are like more concerned about moving to the second term and stuff. And yeah, and at the moment that we were getting ready to start this, universities were not open here, not even opened, So it was really difficult to talk to other universities, to invite people to the symposium. But we did what we could, and here we are, as a representation of that continent that is so far from yours. And well, here the thing in Colombia, as you probably know, is the violence that we have had in the last, let's say, 60, 70 years has to do precisely with this aspect of identity, which is like underneath everything that is happening here. And I think one of my approaches to it is that the nation is fragmented, all right, and that they haven't understood this, all right, that they want to be unified in just one country, not a nation, because nation deals with identity, all right, and then the country, the political approach to society does not take into account the differences in different nations, right? We have here the indigenous nations, all right, and those are my interests, to approach the Wayu communities or nations, the Muiscas, for example, the Kamsa, the different nations that we have here, which they have been invited to in somehow have a political representation, but they have no agency, So it's like this it's politically correct to invite them, but they don't have agency in the decisions the country is making every single day. You see that? So our interests here are like going back to this and try to rescue the narratives of these different nations in order for us to understand what happened here, right? Why we have this kind of postponed history that never never writes itself, let's say, all right? And this is why I'm so interested in being here with you, having this conversation. Because I saw the papers you sent me, and all of them were so interesting that I wanted all of them here, all these people to bring their ideas. Time is limited, so we couldn't choose them all, we couldn't invite them all, but the ones that are invited are so interesting. then they are, going to open a really nice ground for conversation. So thank you for an invitation. Thank you all for being here and for listening to me. And well,
Thank you, Professor Ceballos. Now I would like to welcome Professor Heba of Ezat. She is a professor at the Department of Civilization Studies and the Department of Political Science and International Relations at Ibn Khaldun University, Istanbul, Turkey. She began her academic career at Cairo University as a teaching assistant and then lecturer in political science, and also was a visiting scholar at the Center for Democracy Studies at Westminster University, London, from September 1995 to September 1996. She visited Oxford Center for Islamic Studies as a researcher from January 1998 to August 1998. And to add to her achievement, she was a founding member of Islam Online in 1999 and worked as a consultant and writer for the site between 1999 to 2003. Her research domains include comparative political theory, changing maps of citizenship, and urban sociology. She has been a well-known Egypt intellectual and an activist of contemporary times. We are so happy to have you for this event, and again, with love and respect, we welcome you. Over to you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hello and peace to everyone. I enjoyed very much listening to Professor Masumi and to Professor Felix. And thank you, all the team of Umran. And thank you, Rajiv, for inviting me to be part of this event. And thank you, Nalventan, for your introduction. I hope I did not pronounce your name in a wrong way. And you took from my CV from the first years, and you should have gone to the year 2015-16 instead of reminding everyone that I was a PhD student in 1995 and 6. Shame on you, wallahi. Yani, don't make me look that old. Okay, so I just was very inspired by your talk, Nalventan, actually, when you started and said we are in the company of a tribe of intellectuals. And you used the word tribe, if I'm not mistaken. And I want to draw on that because we assume that tribes will fade away with modernity and the collective affiliations and identities will wither away in favor of citizenship and individualism. And this was the promise of modernity, assuming from the beginning, and this was a wrong assumption, I think, that human beings will be liberated when they become individuals. And I think that this was a wrong assumption. Tribes have different meanings. And in sociology today, we use the word tribe in a metaphorical way. So you are my tribe, and you come from all different backgrounds, and we might have different identities, but we share this dream of humanitarian cooperation, of one humanity, of stopping wars and managing conflicts, because conflicts will never disappear in human life, and the conflict of identities will never stop. But how can we negotiate? How can we coexist and negotiate? And I think that Rajiv used the word of love. Sometimes in Islam, the upper and the ultimate value is compassion and justice. Because I might not love you, but I have an obligation to show compassion because we are all humans, and to grant you justice and to defend your right to justice. And it does not necessarily have a relation with love. I might not have that feeling, but I'm obliged, I have the commitment, and I have from Islamic perspective, even the religious obligation to grant you recognition and dignity and justice and compassion. So the notion of rahma in Arabic, which is compassion and blended with justice in a way. We also have I'm Egyptian, so we have two words that when you talked about Nalventan, when you mentioned the tribe in Arabic is qaba'il. And there is also another word that has the same ending, which is fasa'il. Fasa'il are little, roots of different plants that you can put in the earth and wait for them to come. And there is a saying of Prophet Muhammad when he said, if it is the last day, the day before the day of judgment, and you have a small plant in your hand, and there is no use because it takes years for it to grow, put it in the earth. put it in the earth still. You know, it's your obligation here and now to fulfill your potential, even if you have a few hours for the whole world to end. You are obliged now to do your best. So we belong to tribes, qaba'il, and we have the obligation of planting the seeds for the future. And I think that Umran is one example for this. You know, it brings together different tribes, and it wants to basically put the seeds even when everyone is very pessimistic. The world is, you know, collapsing, and we have a pandemic, and you know, we're stuck at homes. Everything is changing so fast. Technology, artificial intelligence, talks about posthumanism. You know, but you still do something that is very little. You want to change the world by doing something very small. Serving these, I mean, I had tears in my eyes when I saw this distinguished teacher teaching the children sitting on the floor, you know, with all that compassion that he had with them. And this is enough. This is what we just make a snowball, and it will grow. And you don't know who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide you with of helping hands, of helping hearts, of helping minds, you know. So I think that that hope is very important to remember. Professor Masumi was talking about literature, and I think that identity is as she mentioned, and I want to just, you know, stress that it's a matter of narrative. We sometimes, when we talk about ourselves, we discover ourselves, you know. So when you give me the mic and tell me, okay, please introduce yourself, I will take a minute to think, how am I going to order or put the mosaic of my identity together? And this also is in flux all the time, because I'm not the same person as I was 20 years ago. So I think that the narratives also are very educative. And this is what we learned from our old civilizations, like Egyptian civilization, Indian civilization, and different other civilizations as well, that sometimes you gain wisdom by action, and sometimes you gain wisdom by listening to the words of others, and by observing how they manage their everyday life. And there are so many lessons to learn. Thank you, Rajiv, for the opportunity, and I'm thrilled to be with such a very distinguished group of intellectuals. It's the first time I see Professor Masumi and Felix and others, but we are now one tribe. So amongst other tribes that I belong to, and I'm very honored and I'm very happy to be with you. And thank you for every participant and everyone who presented, who submitted a paper, and everyone even who facilitated this technically, and all the stuff that we do not see on the screen, but who have been helping hands as well. And to everyone who participated in your Indian small village, Rajiv, even by lifting a brick and giving a helping hand. Thank you very much.
Well, ma'am, thank you so much. And that was something, to be frank, to talk on whatever we talk and to give us a message. And that's something great. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to introduce Professor Bruce Lawrence. Bruce Lawrence taught in Duke University for 40 years until he retired in 2011 as Marcus Family Humanities Professor of Religion. He is also a professor of Islamic Studies, emeritus, specializing in pre-modern Islam, South Asian Sufism, and Islamic at Cosmopolitan. He received his PhD in History of Religion among his 19 books and 2 recent monographs, Who is Allah, published by University of California Press in 2015, and Quran in English, published by Princeton University Press in 2017. He has co-edited Muslim Networks from Hajj to Hip Hop, published in March 2005 from UNC Press, in a series that he also co-edits with Professor Ernst on Islamic civilization and Muslim networks. This little biographical note doesn't do justice to the professor. He is extremely prolific and known across the world as an educationist, and his unmatched enlightenment, which he has schooled globally. Your human-centric scholarship has been inspiration for Umran Green Perspective Foundation. We are extremely honored to have him here. Without wasting any time, I would like to invite Professor Bruce Lawrence to take over the mic. Over to you, sir.
You are muted, Professor.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the introduction. And I want to thank everybody who has preceded me. And I want to start by making a very general observation that I have learned very much in my own experience at Umran. But one of the things that Professor Hiba Raouf has taught me is that if you're going to be in a tribe or in a family that's a tribe, you always address somebody by their first name. So when she was talking about preceding people, she acknowledged how happy she was to hear Professor Masoumi and Professor Felix. And I'm going to now say how happy I am to hear Professor Hiba. And then if you want to refer to me, you can say you're either happy or unhappy to hear from Professor Bruce. So I am, for the purposes of this family and this tribal conversation, I am reducing myself or projecting myself through my first name only. And I want to say to everybody, including Dr. Batuddin and his honor, Rajiv, that you all now are reduced and also ennobled by your first name. And I want to thank you all for having a first name and also a very fresh face and introduction here. So Rajiv, of course, gives me a lot of advance notice, and he told me yesterday, could you please start or say something in your lecture in Hindustani? So for all those people whose first language is Hindustani, I apologize for saying this thing. Sitaron se age jahan aur bhi hai, asma aur bhi jahan aur bhi, ishq imtihan aur bhi hai. So for those of you who didn't understand my humble Hindustani, and I would have maybe given a different poem if I hadn't heard this wonderful, very brief presentation by Professor Hiba, where she said perhaps the key word that we are looking at is not ishq or love, but compassion, rahmah, or justice, adl. And one of the things I love about Professor Hiba is that I can disagree with her, and we both will agree that our disagreements are more important than what we agree on. So I absolutely agree with her that all these three terms are crucial, but I would say that underlying rahmah and adl and all of the key terms of Islam, including tawakkul, including having dependence on the ultimate and the beyond, the key word really is ishq. And what I want to talk about very briefly in my opening lecture here is the oddity of having this wonderful array of a new tribe, an expanded family, as thanks to Rajiv, we now have put together under Umran. And when people ask me, what are you going to do on Saturday morning? I said, I'm going to participate in a conference on Umran. And they said, oh, so you're going to go outside somewhere? I said, why? They said, Umran just sounds like outdoors. So if you don't know Arabic and you don't know Persian and you don't know Turkish and you don't know some Islamic idiom, Umran sounds like just an outdoor expedition. It has no meaning in English. I think it has no meaning in Spanish. But for those of us who are privileged to have been associated with Ibn Khaldun, and I think I take this in a general sense, Ibn Khaldun is a university, but before it was a university, it was a person. And the person is this major scholar from the Maghreb, from North Africa, who gave us the term Umran. So if people who tell me, I don't understand Umran, it's just outdoors for me, I say, well, it's also indoors, because it's a very beautiful day actually in North Carolina. And frankly, one part of me would rather be outdoors than indoors. But because of Rajiv and because of Dr. Batuddin and Professor Masoumi and Professor Felix and now Professor Hiba, I'm glad to be the fourth person that you're hearing from this morning talking about Umran. And I would like to say that Umran itself is not singular. There is Umran Badawi and Umran Hadari. And so even Umran itself is not a singular thing. There's not one thing called civilization. There is a civilization that is primarily located in the open expanses. What, for those of you who know Iqbal, who of course I just quoted when I quoted my little poem on Ishq, for Iqbal, the important thing is that there always is the desert before you can appreciate the city. So there's no city without a desert. There's no desert that's not given meaning without a city. So there's constantly this play between the natural life, if you will, of the urban and the even different natural life of the rural. And it's both together, not one or the other, or one above the other, or one instead of the other, that makes this happen. And so I'm going to now surprise Rajiv. It's very hard to surprise Rajiv, but I'm going to say that when I was thinking about today's lecture, I was saying, is there anybody who's in the recent times has thought differently about this question of Umran and this notion of Ishq And so I didn't mention this, but I was going to mention this earlier, that even ishq itself is not a singular concept. Just as there is Umran Badawi and Umran Hadari, there is also ishq majazi and ishq haqiqi. Now, I apologize to some of you for whom Arabic or Persian or Urdu is a strange language, but you've heard now the word ishq, which is a very difficult concept in itself because it doesn't mean simply love. It means an abiding interior passion. It's, if you think of love as a small fire, this is like a bonfire. So ishq is a bonfire. It's a huge fire. It can engulf not just a person, but a building and a town and a whole place. So ishq majazi is the metaphor of love when you see something and you love it, like you love a painting or you love a place or you love an experience. But that is very different from ishq haqiqi, which has to be one-on-one, and it can be one-on-one with an individual, or it can be one-on-one with an invisible, overwhelming force, whom we call, or some call, Allah Ta'ala, the one beyond al-ghaib, the one who cannot be known or seen, but who is always present in all of our lives. So even the notion of ishq is not singular. There is ishq haqiqi, which is real love, and there's ishq majazi, which is metaphorical or kind of intermediary or even initial love. But this is where it gets complicated. It's only when you experience ishq at whatever level that you can differentiate between ishq haqiqi and ishq majazi, between metaphoric or introductory love and ishq haqiqi, which is fulfilled or absolute love. So the reason I say I'm going to surprise Rajiv is I was thinking of all this, and I was writing to a friend and said, gee, I'm going to be in this really important conversation with people from 4 continents, and we're going to be talking across the US and Europe, and we're going to be talking about also someone from Colombia, including Latin America. And of course, we're not going to have only India, we're going to have India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. The only part of the world that we're missing is Southeast Asia, but we know that there are some friends from Southeast Asia who are attuned to this. And of course, we have to have our good friend, Professor Hibba, stand in not only for Egypt, but also for all of Africa. So we have some parts of even the globe that are less well represented than others, but for a single conversation, for a single moment, in what's going to be a very exciting 2 days, thanks to the organization efforts of Rajiv and all of his friends and all of the people who work with him, we're going to have a focus on the nature of identity in Umran. And we're going to think about Umran in both the sense of Umran Badawi and Umran Hadari, but we're always going to be going back and forth between dyads or dualities. You cannot escape life with death. Death and life are together, and so is civilization in the city with civilization love in the desert, as is love that is real and love that is metaphoric. So I was reading this person who is actually a British philosopher. His name is Michael Murphy, and he's written a book called The Emptiness of Cosmopolitanism. And I decided when I was preparing my lecture for today that I would introduce a new book to Rajiv so he can read something while he's listening to everybody else. And then by the end of it, he can tell us what Michael Murphy was saying. No, I'm joking. Even Rajiv will give up reading briefly in order to listen to the lectures and to the conversations that will follow. But I want to say that for those of you who have not heard of Michael Murphy and this book, The Emptiness of Cosmopolitanism, Rajiv has already read the book because he's focused on Kabir, and Kabir himself has acknowledged that there are great philosophers before him, one of whom was Nagarjuna. So Nagarjuna, for those of you who are from a different culture, different background than India, Nagarjuna is probably one of the greatest philosophers of India. And one of the concepts that Nagarjuna evolved was the notion of emptiness, shunyata in Sanskrit. So shunyata means emptiness, the total emptiness of everything that is. And you say, well, why would that be important? Because without emptiness, one can't understand fullness. So even in the notion of emptiness, there is an idea that it's going to expand or change in relation to fullness. But if you start with fullness, you feel as if you've already arrived. And this comes back to Iqbal. When Iqbal says, Sataron se jahan bihi asman jihi jahan bihi ishke imtihan bihi. The ishke imtihan. Again, I apologize for those of you who don't know Arabic or Persian or Urdu, but imtihan means the testing, the striving, the goal, if you will, the energy of ishq is what keeps going. So ishq is never something where you arrive at the end without starting at the beginning or going through different passages. Ishq is always in movement. And I think this is the nature of what Umran is beyond Ibn Khaldun, as important as Ibn Khaldun is, beyond the distinction between Umran Hadari and Rama Badawi, between Ishq Haqiqi and Ishq Majazi. When you put all these dualities together, there's one duality that it seems to me is the most important. And I'll do it in English. It's the importance between being and becoming. So for identity, we think about being, and several people have already mentioned that there's this different notion of what it is when it's personal or local or regional. We all have identity markers. We can say, oh, they're people from 4 continents, and this one's from Colombia, and this one's from Chile in Northeast India, and this one is from Bihar. Oh, we can't forget Bihar. There has to be someone from Bihar in all of this, and we can give different regional identities, and then we can say, oh, there's this larger country called India, or there's this globe called Asia, and then there's this place called the world. So we can give spatial identities, or, and now I'm going to embarrass myself, we can give temporal identities, and I can say, holding my hand up, I am the oldest person on this screen. And someone might say, I'm older than you think I am. And somebody would say, I'm actually older than Professor Bruce. So if you're 80 or older, you are older than me. But if you're younger than 80, I am the oldest one. So I'm just saying that I'm really pleased to be not only from the United States and probably the oldest person, but that thankfully I'm not identified by either where I'm from or my age, or even the fact that I speak poor Urdu or Persian or English, and that's a little bit of Turkish. I am privileged by the fact that I'm part of this conference today, Umran. And while everybody else is celebrating outdoors, it's a beautiful day. One would like to be outdoors, in touch with nature, the birds, the clouds, the air. I'm really happy to be indoors and to be in this Umran conference, because the other part of being is becoming. So we all have identity as who we are, what you look like, how old you are, who your parents are. And let me say also for Rajiv, of course, it's not only important his parents, but his grandfather. So it's not only your age and your parents, but it's also the generation before, your grandparents, whom you recall when you think of who you identify and how you want to be identified. So all of us have this cumulative, if you will, this window, this index of points at who we are. And you can say that's your identity, that's your being. But all of us also have another part inside of us, and this is the part that links to ishq, is we not only have something about who we have become, it's also who we want to become. It's our striving. And ishq is always about being unsettled and unhappy with the present and always striving for something better. And it's not necessarily that we don't honor, and I want to say specifically to Professor Raouf, it's not only that we honor rahma and adl, compassion and justice, but we strive for something more than compassion in the way in which we've known it, and more than justice as we now have it in either in Turkey or the United States or South America or East Asia or the world. So I would say that one of the things that's wonderful about this conference is that Umran itself has a double perspective. So Umran is green. And so someone would say, oh, it's green because that's an Islamic color. Oh, no, I think actually knowing Rajiv, it's green because it's environment. Well, actually come to think of it, now that I know Rajiv, it's green because it's Muslim and environment, and it's friendly for all groups. So green is not just a Muslim color. It's not just an environment color. It's not just Rajiv's favorite color. It's also the color of Umran that pervades this conference. So there may be green outdoors, but there's also green indoors. And so this is the difference between ishq majaz and ishq haqiqi and ilm hadari and ilm badawi. Everything that is a conjunction that has two elements also has the interaction of these. And this brings me to the word that Rajiv will always identify with me and some others too, and that is the word barzakh. And so whenever and this is what I'm going to end my lecture with, is talking briefly about barzakh. And when I mention barzakh, usually even some of my Muslim students, their eyes roll over and say, oh yes, it's one of those strange words in the Quran. And yes, let's see, there's a passage in the quote Surah Ar-Rahman, إِنَّهُمَا بَرْزَخْ لَا يَنْبَغِيَانِ بَيْنَهُمَا بَرْزَخْ لَا يَنْبَغِيَانِ. But between them, بَيْنَهُمَا, between the two people, I don't mean to give a Quranic exegesis lesson in my first lecture, but just to say that the two groups that are talking here, again, is two groups. It's not that human beings, it's human beings and jinn. So between human beings and jinn, or between us and a whole other world, which we only sometimes recognize, is a barzakh, which we do not exceed. In other words, there's something which identifies us. The barzakh says this is who we are, and we can't exceed it, but we can recognize it. And in recognizing the barzakh, the two opposite elements, or the two complementary, they may be not quite the same, but precisely because they're not the same, they interact and we're greater, not because one becomes the other, but because both work together. So if I had to do just a brief, going back to Professor Murphy, Michael Murphy's lecture, he says that we cannot escape dualities, but he said there's a really difference between having diametric dualities. This is Professor Murphy, not Professor Michael, not Professor Bruce. But Michael Murphy says in his book, The Emptiness of Cosmopolitanism, it's not that you have things that clash, like communism and capitalism, or East and West, or Orientalism and post-Orientalism, or colonialism and decolonialism. Instead of having these opposites, you also have something else where you have difference or dualities that combine. And he calls these, following Nagarjuna, concentric dualities. So you have a circle within a circle. One circle does not become the other, but you have a small circle and then a larger circle. You don't eliminate circles, and you don't make one circle into the other, but you have a circle and then a larger circle. And this whole idea is that when we think about barzakh and what I call barzakh logic, it's not eliminating duality. It's not saying ilm hadari or Umran hadari and Umran badawi, one is better than the other. It's that they both have to exist together, and each has to supplement, complement, and even compete, but never eradicate. Istabiqu bil khair is another saying from the Quran. Istabiqu bil khair. And I apologize to those who aren't Muslims here, but it's a wonderful phrase from the Quran. Istabiqu bil khair means compete with what is good. Compete to do what is good. It doesn't mean you eliminate your competition. It means you recognize you're competing with someone else, including your own inner self, including your own biography, your own background, your own life, your own given identity. You're competing with it to become something better. So the istabiqu bil khair from the Quran is not just about competing with Rajiv or competing with Professor Raouf or competing with anybody else. It's competing with yourself and your own best possibilities. So I think that, Rajiv, I want to end by thanking you for having started this meeting and having put together this wonderful array of people. And I'm looking forward to the next conversations we have. And I hope that we all succeed in fulfilling the imtihan-e-ishq that Iqbal called for all of us to try and achieve in our lives. Thank you.
If I may push in, following, can I say, Professor Bruce, is there a phonetic identity here? When I listen to your phonetics, how you pronounce the word ishq and how Professor Raouf pronounces ishq, there's a difference. She pronounces ayn and you pronounce it ah. Is there a phonetic identity here?
So I think maybe my sound is bad because I meant to say ishq. I was pronouncing too fast and I didn't linger on the Ain. I pronounced the Ain like it was an Aleph, but I didn't. No, because of course, if it's just Ishq, it's just a tear. So I wasn't having a tear. I was trying to have a profound experience.
Okay, thank you.
It was an Ain, not an Aleph.
You can pronounce and I can see it. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Bruce Lawrence. Those words are gems. Now, we will take a short break of 30 minutes, and when our break back, the presentations will start. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll join through the same link after 30 minutes.
Okay, same link, Rajiv. Thank
Yes,
you very much. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Swati.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you.